Professor Kupchan, U.S. administration lately has nominated new ambassadors in 3 Balkan countries: Jeffrey Hovenier in Kosovo, Christopher Hill in Serbia, and Michael Murphy in Bosnia. Gabriel Escobar is also new in his position as Deputy Assistant Secretary for Western Balkans. Some say that these decisions show that the United States has some serious goals in this region. What is your comment on that, and what may be U.S. goals for the region?
Well, I'm not surprised that the State Department has appointed very talented, experienced, seasoned diplomats for these posts for 2 reasons. One is that the president himself cares a lot about the Balkans. He's been engaged in the region for decades. One of his last trips as vice president was to Belgrade and to Pristina. There is a road named after his son in Kosovo. So this is an individual with longstanding ties to the region. And we've also, I think, seen an effort to invest in the Foreign Service, career diplomats, to recover from the Trump era, where there was very low morale in the State Department. So I think it's a combination of getting the State Department, its career professionals back involved, the president's concern about the Balkans.
21st of October, the European Parliament has criticized the EU for not fulfilling of promises towards Western Balkans. Some lawmakers called the promises and conclusions from the Brdo summit only empty words, especially mentioning the refusal to have time references for the enlargement process. Meanwhile, the EU and the United States agreed to further strengthen their joint engagement in the Western Balkans in support of the region's progress on its European path. What can we expect from such commitments?
The criticism from the Parliament is not surprising and not unjustified. And I think it's safe to say that a combination of political crisis within Western Europe and the United States, plus the pandemic, has led to a period in which we've all been inwardly focused, in which our priorities have been at home, repairing the economy, fighting COVID-19, getting people back to work. And of necessity, I think that has meant less attention to the foreign policy agenda. And in the European case in particular, we've also seen what I would call enlargement fatigue, a focus on Brexit and managing the UK's departure from the EU. Now, I do think, we're not out of the woods on the pandemic. There's still a lot of hard work to do. But I do sense that in both Brussels and in Washington, there is an agreement that there is important unfinished business in the Balkan region. This would be an opportune time to address it. And it's also worth pointing out that I think part of what's motivating the 2 sides of the Atlantic is Russia and China. Russia still attempts to exploit ongoing political disputes in the region to its advantage. China is making inroads into southeastern Europe. And I think everything else being equal, the United States and the EU would like to inoculate, if you will, the Western Balkans against Russian and Chinese interference. And that means, in many respects, resolving outstanding political disputes and getting all the countries of the region on the path to EU and NATO membership.
What would be the other priorities of Christopher Hill in Serbia? Or do you think only Kosovo issues, or something else will be in his agenda?
Well, I think it'll be a broad agenda. The relationship with Kosovo will loom large, but so too will the issue of Russian involvement in Serbia, the Serbian economy, and the need to move Serbia in the right direction, not just politically, but economically. But I do think that that the relationship between Belgrade and Kosovo will to some extent dominate his tenure, in as much as it's an issue that looms over the region.
Christopher Hill played extremely important role in the period on 19th, while the relations between Belgrade and Washington were at their lowest. What kind of influence his experience from the bloody time will have to his future relations with current political elite in Serbia led by President Aleksandar Vučić?
Well, for starters, Christopher Hill will know the players and will have strong personal relationships with many of the influential figures in the region, and that's always a good place to start. He doesn't have to go out and build them. Secondly, he's an individual with an enormous amount of experience and a lot of credibility here in Washington, and that means that he'll have direct access not just to Secretary Blinken, but to the White House and other key players. He's someone who carries a lot of weight in diplomatic circles. He's been very experienced inside the State Department. He's been outside now for quite a while and has developed a reputation as a very astute commentator and analyst. So I think you're looking at one of the top, most experienced, high reputation individuals, which I think is quite good news for Serbia.